I'm going to talk about some difficult topics, but my soul is feeling that now is the time to talk about these things. I normally post on TikTok in short form content, but I've been called to post a longer video here in order to show a clearer picture as to what is going on, but also because of the censoring that's taking place on that platform, it's becoming more and more difficult to share deeper truths. So, in the recent um, in the recent release of the Epstein files, I, for one, am very grateful for the fact that these files have finally been released, because for a long time I have been called a conspiracy theorist. For a long time I have been researching and I have come across some very, very difficult things. And it's interesting because me coming into the understanding and the knowing of what is really happening at the deepest layers of our society are very much interwoven with my own personal story. And this is how I came to find out a lot of this information. I came to find out a lot of this information because in 2017, I embarked on a very deep healing journey where I knew that there was something very, very dark in my past. And I felt that it was time to go and find out what it was and to start healing it, because my life has been one challenge after another since the moment I was born. It is almost like I have been persecuted. Every single thing that could have gone wrong in my life has gone wrong. I have not known peace. And not to say that there have not been happy moments and peaceful moments, but most of my life has been challenge after challenge. And this is all connected to spirituality, because we have to remember that the world is spiritual before it is physical. We as human beings are spiritual beings having a physical human experience. And for thousands and thousands of years, humanity has been oppressed. Humanity has lived under spiritual warfare. And it is only now that we are starting to see it come to the surface, because now is a time of purging. We have been repeating the same cycles over and over again because most people will not accept this, but the world has been controlled by a very small number of people. And it's not like they just control it like that. This is something that has gone on for generations and generations. There are families that have existed for centuries or even millennia that have been part of bringing about this plan. And many of us have heard of the plan of the New World Order, but the New World Order is a plan that has been in existence for thousands of years. There have been New World Orders in several instances. When we look back through history, when we look at, for example, the Roman Empire, where the Pope sat as the main power of the world and even proclaimed himself to be higher than God, essentially saying that the Pope was the representation of God on earth. But how can that be when God is not human? God is not a he or a she or an it. God is everything. And we have been deeply misinformed about what or who God is and how God operates. We have been operating in a false system where we have not really understood how the world works, because psychological manipulation and magic really are the two forms of control that have been used to ensure that we cannot see clearly. Because for a long time I have said that black magic is used at the highest levels of world governments. And for a long time people thought that I was crazy. But finally, as the Epstein files have come out, people can see what the world truly is like, because the world is dark. The world is full of hatred. The world is full of division. The world is full of separation, and not because this is the way the world is, but because this is the way the world has been organized by select few people and groups that are at the highest point of the pyramid of power. Because the world has been created in some kind of hierarchy where we, the people who recognize the Most High and people who work with the best of intentions, most people have become corrupted. Most people have been led astray because of the system. All the man-made systems that we worship are all in place to simply control the way we see the world, the way we think, and therefore the way we behave. We have all been under a massive mind control program where everything that we interact with is put in place in order to control the way we perceive and therefore the way we behave. Because remember, the old saying goes, we were created in the image of the gods, because we, our souls, are a spark of the divine essence. We, just as the Most High, have the ability to create. And it's as simple as you think of something, you go out there and you make it happen. That is creation. But the biggest war has been on the feminine. The biggest war has been through sexuality and the removal of innocence. And finally, the world is ready to see the truth for what it is, because we have been on the timeline of truth for a little bit now. And this is why we see so much chaos taking place in the world around us, because those who have been in power and those who have been in control can see that their power is falling away. Their power is starting to slip out of their fingers. They are starting to see that the masses are awakening and the masses are demanding more. The masses are finally demanding accountability because we have had enough. And this is the same across the world. But I want to focus more on Africa right now, because Africa has been at the center of the largest suppression program since as far back as we can remember. For hundreds of years now, melanated people have been oppressed. And why is it that the melanated have been oppressed more than anything else? Is because the original human genome, the original human being has melanin. Because melanin is not just about skin color. Melanin is like a biological antenna that connects us here on Earth to the cosmos at large. This is why melanated people have a closer connection to the Most High. It is through our melanin. And this is why the colonizers came in, because the colonization and the slave trade before that was a psychological operation that happened on a mass scale across the continent, that was to make the African and the indigenous people of the world believe that they were inferior. And this is why the colonizers brought their white Jesus Christ and their white God. And this is why humanity has experienced a whitewashing throughout time, even to the extent that when you tell people that Black people built the pyramids, white supremacy that has been reigning our world for as far back as we can remember, well, those who are devoid of melanin, they don't want to accept this truth, because it would mean that they have been lied to. It would mean that they are inferior. And this is not about inferior or superior. As somebody who is of mixed race and mixed heritage, I can tell you that I have experienced so many challenges as the result of my skin color. And because everybody else seems to have a problem about it, because I'm not white enough to be white, but I'm not Black enough to be Black, therefore meaning that I am accepted by neither of these groups. And this is simply to say that we have to stop hiding behind colorism, racism, feminism. All of these isms are man-made concepts that have been invented and have been put in place by those in power to control the way we behave with one another. Because as human beings, we are supposed to be united. When you look at the animal kingdom, you don't see animals fighting each other, the same animal species fighting each other. And of course, yes, there will be moments where they'll fight, but you don't see them actively going out and killing one another. That seems to be something that is reserved for the human race, and not because that is how we operate intrinsically, but this is how we have been programmed to operate. Hollywood, movies, TV shows, even the news tell us blatantly what is happening, but people think that these are just jokes. People are too interested in what their neighbors are doing, or what's going on with the Kardashians, or what football player is being bought by what club, that people have not wanted to know the truth. And I'll give everyone the benefit of the doubt in that, yes, there have been struggles and there have been challenges, and it's easier to stick our head in the sands and pretend that nothing is happening when it's not happening directly to us. But now we have reached the reckoning. The reckoning is here. And let me tell you something about karma. People believe that karma is you do good things, you get good things back. Yes, that's true to a certain extent. But also, if you see bad things happening right in front of you and you do nothing about it, that also brings up karma. So, for all the people around the world who have wanted to bury their head in the sand and pretend that nothing has been happening, pretend that they just can turn a blind eye because it hasn't been affecting them directly, now we can no longer pretend that these things aren't happening. Because what we see at the surface is what the powers that are falling have wanted us to see. But the way the world really operates behind closed doors and operates within the shadows. The more we have wanted to know truth, the more we have taken the time to heal ourselves and become aware of perhaps the negative aspects that we all hold. Because as I have said it time and time again, we all have to take responsibility because we are all involved. We have all seen negative things happening and people have not wanted to speak up. People have not wanted to speak up because they have been fearful as to what repercussions might happen for their lives. And I can understand this because how many times have I spoken up about things and that has gotten me in trouble? But I'm still here and I'm still standing, and I would still rather die than sit back and watch the horrendous things that are happening in our world. Because at the core of everything that is happening, the people who are being the most affected by the system are the most innocent. And this is making me really emotional because I don't think that people are angry enough. Because the people who are suffering more than anything in the system are the children. You know, it baffles me how here in Africa people say, oh, children are a blessing, children are a gift to God. I disagree. Children are miraculous and they're wonderful, but if you as a parent do not have the ability to care for your child with love and to ensure that all of your child's needs are met, and I'm talking about emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, then you have no right to bring a child into this world. And it really angers me when people continue having children and they are not conscious in their parenting, and then they turn around years later and they're like, oh, boo-hoo. It is so hard to have children when from the beginning I have said I never want to have children. How could I bring children into this world? And people looked at me and said, what is wrong with you? As a woman, that is your destiny. You are made biologically to have children. Yes, that might be true, but it doesn't mean that we all need to have children. Especially here on the African continent, when you look at the number of women who have fibroids and who have so many issues with reproductive health, the reason for this is their wombs are shutting down because they do not want to carry the children of men who abuse them. They do not want to carry the children they do not want to bring children into a world where they know those children will not be safe, because there is nothing worse than a woman, than a mother wanting to fight for her child and the system works against her. And that is my own story, not that I have children, but that the way I was kept away from my mother, and not just my biological mother, but even the woman who adopted me. And so there is really nothing worse. And today, when we see everything that is happening around the world, who is fighting? It's certainly not the men, because the men have been taken over by sex. And this is why these Epstein files, what they're bringing out, are bringing so much darkness. And what they didn't talk about in the Diddy case, and what was not really, or why the Pizzagate documentary and all the documentaries that came out in 2020 divulging all of this information that were highly, highly suppressed, those of us who talked about it, we were labeled crazy. We were labeled conspiracy theorists. But who was fighting for the children? The children, the young children who are being abused in the most horrendous ways, and who wait for people to come and save them, and who wait for people to come and help them. But where is the help? Unfortunately, too many adults out there are too involved with themselves, not caring about what is happening. And yes, these things are hard to look at. It's hard to accept that these things are happening at the hands of human beings. But this is the truth, and we as a collective must stand up and fight for the next generation, because if we do not fight, where are we going? They depend on us. The most innocent souls depend on us to fight for them. But where is the anger? Where is the rage? As I sit here in Kenya and we prepare to go into elections next year, fuck the voting. Voting doesn't work. Now is a time for revolution, and we have to remember who the enemy is. We cannot be fighting each other anymore. We have to go to the head of the snake. And remember, we are about to end the year of the snake. And this is why everything is ramping up, because as people always say, we have to see to believe. Well, now we are seeing, and still people are not believing. Still people want to hide and say, oh, I didn't know what was going on. Bullshit. When people have been worshipping celebrities, people have been worshipping politicians, people have been worshipping church people, thinking, oh, these are all the great people. But what if I told you that these are the very people who are committing the most heinous and horrific acts? And the reason why the men are nowhere to be found and the men are not fighting is because they have been taken over by the spirit of perversion. This is why porn is free. This is why sex is everywhere, and who suffers in all of this? It is the woman, because let us not forget that our sexual energy is the same energy that creates life. And by binding our wombs, and by engaging in sex with men who watch porn and who sleep around and who are not energetically clean, what is that putting into your womb? That is the energy that you are bringing life into this world in. And so we have to stand up and fight for what is right, because what runs this world is sex. I came across a video the other day where a woman was talking about how the beauty standards for women are actually based on all this pedophilic behavior, because they want women who look young, who are skinny, and who look like they have no shapes, women who have no hair in their intimate areas, women who look like they barely have any breasts, women who are basically looking like children, because that is what the world seems to lust after. And it's crazy where people think that pedophilia and incest are rare, but it is crazy how this has happened to so many women. There are probably, in fact, more women who have experienced some kind of sexual abuse than not. And the thing is, we know that this is happening to women, but what we don't think about is the men who are actually the perpetrators of all this. Because men can hide behind whatever the fuck they want to hide behind. Well, I guess they can hide behind the patriarchy, because the patriarchy has made them believe that women are here to serve them. But this is where the inversion lies, because if God, the Most High, were to embody in physical form, God would be a black woman. Maybe some of you have heard of Tiamat, which was the name given in ancient Sumeria to the cosmic womb, because remember, everything came from darkness. Everything came from the cosmic womb of creation. And who creates? A woman creates, not a man. We have been taught that the man is the one that gives the seed. Perhaps, yes, the man gives the seed, but there was a time where women could procreate without the need of men, because there was a time where only women walked this planet. And so this is why women, especially black women, melanated women, have been subdued and have been made to feel like they are lower than anyone else, but yet they are the fighters. And this is why Africa is rising, because finally things are coming back into balance. And the truth of who needs to be at the top is the African woman, because the African woman is the one who has the most heart. But the African woman also knows when harshness is needed. And this is why we as the African continent are rising, because we as Africa will rule the world once more. But the only way that we rule the world once more is by removing the oppression that has been placed upon our backs, standing up for what is rightfully ours, standing up against the system that is oppressing our children and harming them, because we are the protectors, and it is our duty to protect the land, the animals, and the children, because they are what continue life moving forward. We were sent here as guardians of the earth, as guardians of our fellow brothers and sisters, and it is time we take up this mantle. It is time we stand up for what is true and what is right. because we can no longer continue hiding. We can no longer continue waiting for the very leaders who stand in power today in false power. Those who lead our governments and make us believe that they are going to bring about the change when they are the very perpetrators of this fucked up system that we live in. So, evolution is what is needed. We cannot keep looping in these same cycles. We have to know what is taking place, and we have to pick a side, because if we see wrong happening and we do nothing, let me just tell you that your karma is coming. You can think that you're a wonderful and good person, but if you see people suffering and you do nothing, can you really call yourself a good person? And now I want to address all the Christians, because the people who go around calling themselves Christians, just know that you who call yourself Christians are actually working against Christ. Because Christ came and walked this earth and said, do not worship me, worship my Father. He talked about not worshipping idols, and yet that is what you go and do every day when you go to your churches and you put up these fucking pastors who you have no idea are the very ones perpetuating these horrific dark magic rituals where they engage in all kinds of sadistic and disgusting behavior. And you will go to church every day and you will bow down to these people and then come and talk to us who are spiritual and say, oh, why are you not believing in Christ? This is where the problem lies. Too many inversions. Because remember, the kingdom of God is within. And the way we show that we have true allegiance to the Most High is by helping those who suffer. Those are the very teachings that Yeshua came to teach. He taught us to be loving to our neighbor, to treat everyone with respect. But where is the respect? There is no respect. It is time that we look at ourselves deeply. It is time that we see where we are also part of the problem, because this is the only way we get out of it. Yes, we can blame our leaders. Yes, we can blame everybody else, but we have all had a part to play, because there is free will. And even though there has been a lot of oppression, in every single moment, we have the free will to make any decision we choose. And yet still people hide behind things and say, oh, I didn't know. Bullshit. We can no longer hide behind these things, because now the truth is out there for everybody to see. And my question to you is, what side are you on? Because if you are not standing up and fighting against these things, fighting for what is good and true, then I'm sorry to break it to you, but you too are part of the problem.